Hello everyone, James Williams, Director of Programs with MEF. Again, thank you very much to Infobip and Anam for that previous session about SMS. That is absolutely a channel here to stay. I was talking about SMS as well on day one of our event and talking to panelists, how long do you think SMS is going to be around in a dominant force? That was in relation to two-factor authentication. I was suggesting 5 to 10 years. Some people were suggesting even longer. Time will tell. So thank you all for that previous session. Now, next up, we're going to be looking at the world of conversational commerce. Tim Green, our features editor, had a great selection of videos. And one of those was directly talking about conversational commerce. But what is it? Where are we today around the world with conversational commerce? We'll be looking at that coming up now with my panelists and speakers. So first up, I'd like to welcome to the stage is Anurag Aggarwal, who is the Director of Messaging Services with Tata Communications. Hey, Anurag. Hi.
Hi, James.
Hello.
Thank you so much. Good to see you all again.
No, great to have you with me, sir. So you're not done for today. You're on the last session with me as well, the jury. And I think ultimately this will be your final rendition in public with Tata Communications as well. And I won't let you forget that. But first of all, what do you do with Tata Communications and who is Tata Communications?
All right. I think thankfully one doesn't need to explain much about who is Tata Communications. We are a global carrier working across voice, signaling, data, and messaging. And messaging has been something which has been more of a relatively recent start. We've been here in messaging for the last 7 years. We focus on A2P messaging primarily. And I head the commercial arm of this messaging business, focusing on growing the top line and bottom line of this business, working with operators, OTTs, enterprises, the entire ecosystem, and of course with the likes of MEF. Thank you.
Fantastic. Absolutely. Had to get that plug in. Much appreciated. Thank you very much. Next, I would like to welcome Luisa Sanchez, the VP of Messaging with Identidad Technologies. Hey, Luisa.
Hi. Hi, James. Hi, Anurag. How are you?
Great to see you again. You're one of our more recent MEF members, but Identidad, tell us a little bit about Identidad and what you do with Identidad. How long have you been around?
Okay, so Identidad Telecom or Technologies now is an international carrier as well. Right now, we're focusing on 4 business lines, which is wholesale. It includes, of course, voice, which is our oldest baby, SMS and messaging. We have 2 other lines of business, which includes IoT and networking solutions. And then our latest line of business is Yellow Push, where we have a retail ecosystem for everything that has to do with messaging and communication solutions and so on. So I'm the head for the SMS department and for Yellow Push. And yeah. Thanks for having us here.
No problem. Place Identidad. Your business currently at the moment is more on the US LATAM side of things.
That's correct. Yes, that's correct. So we're located here in the United States, and our strongest market is, of course, Latin America and the Caribbean. Of course,
I'll be bringing you up to, you can give a nice regional flavor on that. So thank you very much. Next up, I'd like to bring Krešo Žmak from VP of Products with Infobip. We have both Krešo and Chrysa, so no problem at all. We've got both of you. Let's roll with Chrysa first. Ladies first, polite.
Thank you. Hi, James. Hi.
Great to have you with you. Great to have you with me. So could you explain Upstream? What do Upstream do?
So Upstream is an experienced mobile acquisitions and engagement expert, mainly working in emerging markets with and for mobile operators, but also with other sectors such as insurance companies, educational institutions, retailers, and banks. We help our customers implement and accelerate digital growth and increase their revenue by growing their acquisitions through fully digitized customer journeys, employing omni-channel strategies. I'm Chrysa. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer at Upstream. I have been with my company since 2009, taking on several performance and product roles inside Upstream. And as of beginning of 2020, I have been heading the product portfolio and roadmap to make sure that it is aligned with our business strategy and growth targets, including our newly launched omni-channel engagement and acquisition platform named Grow.
That's absolutely perfect. You're in the right place then. We just had Kostas a little earlier talking about that as well, and the SMS. And indeed, yesterday, you're Jeff Cleaves, head of your Secure D side of things, talking about payments. So a very warm welcome. Krešo, come to you. We haven't forgotten you, sir. Yeah, welcome back. That was very short-lived. Yeah. Don't worry. We hadn't received loads of messages saying, hey, there's too much info, but we had an info on the previous session. Take Krešo. Don't worry.
I saw my colleagues were dressed up, so I am comfortable with my t-shirt. So and it's getting
very,
cold.
Very comfortable.
It's getting warm in Croatia, so it's summer starting here.
Well, I saw with Onion actually had the aircon on, and I saw the ribbons going. So I'm thinking, good weather. It's not like that so much over here in the UK, but a very warm welcome. So Krešo, what's your role with Infobip?
I'm the VP products at Infobip. Infobip, as you know, is a communication platform as a service, serving several thousands, tens of thousands clients around the world, HQ'd in Croatia, but with 66 offices around the world, with strong presence. With the latest acquisition of Open Market, now we are heavily present also in the United States. And I'm responsible primarily for our SaaS portfolio, as well all the telco proposition and the new emerging OTT channels.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Great to have you with me. And joining us also is Henrique Angeli, Operations Director from Sinch.
Hey, James.
Hi. I do apologize if I said your name wrong.
No, that was perfect.
I tried. I know it's definitely not Henrique because you're in Brazil. Yeah.
No, but actually it is. I just say it's Henrique with H, but it spells the same. It's half Italian, half Spanish. So don't worry.
Okay. But you're in Brazil. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, there's always something thrown at me, but there we go. Anyway, pleasure having you. So what's your role with Sinch?
I'm the operations director here at Sinch in Latin America, running all our business and right now helping with all the integration within our previous company that were bought by Sinch in the past few years and lately. So helping to grow here in Latin America, our message business, and mostly going forward for the CPaaS, in which, like last month, Sinch was named one of the leaders in IDC MarketScape on CPaaS. So this is the real deal for us here, how to get all the companies within the Sinch portfolio working together in offering, in the end, our best solutions for our companies.
And let's just put it this way, it makes sense you being in Brazil with the two companies you bought in Brazil. It's a very strong position there in particular. So you can bring a great Latin American flavor to proceedings here today as well. And also like to welcome Taha Jiwaji, who is the founder and CEO of Beem. Hey, Taha, nice you could join us. Hi.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. So my name is Taha. Should I go ahead?
Go ahead, please do.
My name is Taha. I'm the founder and CEO of Beem. Beem is a Pan-African cloud communication CPaaS provider. So we work with a lot of aggregators as well as large enterprise and small SMEs. So the full range of customers across Africa. We work across about 20 plus countries at the moment. And we're strong in messaging. We started off as a messaging provider, but now obviously increasingly we're an omni-channel platform with very Africa-specific channels such as airtime and mobile money and USSD into that omni-channel mix.
Fantastic. Now, you're one of our newest members of MEF, so a very warm welcome. Now, I know I'm throwing a curveball. It wasn't planned for my speakers here today, but any speaker out there, one of you six, do you happen to know in what year the phrase conversational commerce first came out? Any idea, anybody?
2015, maybe.
Now, the way you said that, maybe, had you just gone to Google and checked?
No, it's a wild guess.
Typing. It's not a maybe. Krešo
Christmas Inn, I did it from Uber. I don't know which year.
Yeah, he did. It was 2015, and it was Chris Messina. So Chris Messina was a guy still around, and he did a ton of work with Uber in the early days. And actually, he was responsible for the wonderful hashtag we use all the time, and I use, possibly overuse, some people would say, in my LinkedIn messages, of which there are quite a few flowing around. So yeah, it's conversational commerce. Now, strictly speaking, today, when I'm talking conversational commerce, I should be looking at the intersection of messaging apps and retail. That is conversational commerce, and that's all. But we have some great expertise. We have some great companies in here. And I think just to talk about retail and messaging apps would be too limiting. So I'm going to be kind and open things up slightly to conversational business messaging, should I say. So to get things going, how well, I'm going to go back to my old-fashioned rating here at the beginning, 1 to 10, 1 being extremely poor, 10 being perfect. How well do you think the mobile ecosystem, you companies, and everyone in general is doing in the world of conversational business messaging, making it accessible to companies of any size and delivering people out there what they want to benefit them? So we'll start off with Henrique in Brazil with Sinch.
James, I would say we are a little bit above the average. So 6 is what we've seen here in Latin America. But even looking globally, I think it's 6 because the way we've been approaching the conversational commerce and what we've been seeing, people starting to hear that more often. Companies, because of the pandemic as well, they started to bring it earlier, the conversational commerce, and entering into that. So I believe 5 to 6 would be the right approach right now.
Okay, so definite room for improvement coming
for sure.
From you. Chrysa, you're up next. What's your opinion?
I think I'm more optimist than Henrique. So actually, if you had asked this question like a year ago, my answer would be much different. I would go with a 7 or 7.5 maybe, because great progress has been made over the past year, because the digitization of the purchase process and the customer experience funnel has become a necessity for many retailers and other businesses. So I think since a lot of people couldn't visit the store to ask about the product either before they buy it or after they buy it, a lot of technological advancements have happened to actually fill in for the need to replace this with a digital experience. And even big players have made the changes like WhatsApp. So I would go with a 7. Of course, it's one thing knowing about it, having advanced technologically, and another thing for the companies to start using it correctly, take advantage of it. So there is still room to improve, even for our solutions and platforms, so that we can customize it to the needs of our customers.
Fantastic. So clearly, you said before you would have probably given it, let's say before all of this, 15 months ago, what would your rating have been, Chrysa?
I would say it would be maybe a 3. So
a 3?
Yes, 3
Wow.
or 4. I feel like everything before the pandemic has been a warm up, and now we are in the main event.
Wow. Okay. Wow. That's a huge increase. We're going to see next up, Anurag. What's your take on things?
When a Sinch says 6, you really don't fight with the leader, So I would personally say that I think, in my opinion, a 6 is a very fair assessment. And why I say that, I feel I'm going to make a slightly strong statement. I think nobody will ever cross a 6. That's just my view. And why is that so? Because it's a constantly shifting goalpost. And as you get the consumer used to more and more conversational commerce channels and various features and options available, I think the demand just keeps increasing. So the canvas keeps increasing, the size keeps increasing, and hence the constant, I mean, it's almost like a treadmill. You're constantly running just to stay still in terms of even meeting 60% of the expectations of consumers. So yes, of course, we are excelling, and I think Chrysa very rightly said that if you compare last year versus this year, yes, there has been a shot in the arm thanks to the pandemic. A lot more online conversations have bolstered, and enterprises have been comfortable, or rather, enterprises have been compelled to use these various channels, and it started making them more comfortable now as we speak in 2021. So I think yes, from a percentage growth point, I think there's like been 100% growth in our offerings in the market as an industry. But in terms of the shifting goalpost, I'll say we are always just 60% there.
Okay, thank you, Anurag. Next up, Luisa in Miami. Hi.
Hi. So I'm more into Carisa's line as well. I would say it's around 7 to 8. And this has definitely, as we've seen, change for the past 15 months. Again, I think that brands each day are using it more, and it's more available and so on. So I don't want to repeat a lot of what they've said,
no problem. But let's phrase it differently. Any specific countries you would like to identify within LATAM who you think, wow, we've seen a massive leap forward over others?
Well, more than LATAM, I'll say here in the United States, the usage is incredibly growing. You've seen that it's not only financial institutes that used to have this as a high usage, but now you have retailers, you have small brands, you have even, I don't know, like stores, little stores that they sell, for example, a very quite a good example is bikes, where you can actually now interact with the brands and the stores and ask specifics about it. And so you see small brands getting into this, and it's because of the pandemic. Of course, we couldn't go into the stores and ask all these direct questions. So we're now experiencing this like in store, but in the whole digital ecosystem. So we've seen it each day more and more and more, and it's not all these big brands, it's also a small brand. So the example is, of course, here in the United States, where we see a huge growth.
Very good. Next to Taha in Tanzania. Hi, Taha. What's your take on it, and any specific standout countries that you're working with in Africa?
Yeah, I would say, so in the general African context, I think it's still early days. So I would say we're still at a 3-4 level. Obviously, globally, I think there's a much bigger uptake, and it's more in the 5-6 range. But I think in African context, it's still early days for enterprises to adopt some of these.
Is that simply down to the fact that smartphone penetration?
Yeah, it's smartphone penetration, budget allocations, a lot of other things.
Okay, we'll come to that. We'll come to limiting factors and what's happening around the world. But okay, that's great. Thank you very much. And Krešo, over to you.
Yeah, if we're talking in terms of conversational commerce in business messaging, I would give it a 3 for sure. Because if we talk about broader adoption, if we talk about conversational support, conversational engagement, then it is 5 or 6. But conversational commerce, it's still not there. So you cannot complete a payment through the majority of the chat apps, or there is no reach through those. If we talk about China, about WeChat, yes, that is 10 of 10. But if you look at the rest of the world, conversational commerce is not there yet. So still you are not having the advertising driving the end user into the app, into product catalog, browsing it, and then purchasing it. If you look at all the chat apps out there, no one is still completed or doesn't have the reach, the big enough reach. So that's the situation. So, but I'm just being realistic. And to be more realistic, the potential is huge, and it's here and it's growing, and we see it growing. So in terms of the situation as it is, we are not yet on the curve of getting there. We are just starting to grow. So that's, I think the future is bright, but there is a lot of work still to be done primarily from the side of the chat apps to introduce the features like carousels, payments, discovery capabilities, and close the whole customer journey from the advertising to the purchase.
Okay.
And later on to the support.
Yeah, one word. Sometimes people spoke with two words actually that no one's mentioned yet. Chatbots, but we'll come back to those. Now, just to throw it out there, people have been talking about omni-channel messaging, and then we've got conversational commerce. I'd like to go to you, Henrique. And is omni-channel the same as conversational commerce, or is it different? I know it's a tough one. You're with a real tough one. I know, sorry, but
because sometimes you might see it's the same, sometimes it's different. I would like to say they are part of the same ecosystem, right? They are part of the same environment. You cannot have one without the other one, because in the end, for conversational commerce, you need to have a full stack of different channels within your conversational commerce in order to try to make the best of it for the end user. So imagine that example where here in Latin America, the penetration of Android is like more than 80%. So iOS users, it's just a small amount compared to the whole base. And then you go and do an advertisement in order to bring the customer from your website, from your portal, whatever, and then you try to reach that guy on iOS, and for example, he does not have Apple Business Chat. He does not even know how to use it. So in order to not lose that user, you might still send an SMS with a link. You might send a fallback to WhatsApp or to any other channel. So you need to have that stack of different channels in order to make the best of it for your conversational commerce to work. Because in the end, what brands want is to communicate with their users. Doesn't matter where, but they need to communicate and to have them on board on that. So that's why, for me, they are part of the same ecosystem, James.
Okay, makes sense. Anurag, over to you. How would you personally, Anurag, how would you define conversational commerce? So if someone on the street was to say, oh, we're hearing this thing about conversational commerce, I've got a small business, sounds good, I'd like to get involved. What's your definition of it?
So, partly continuing from what Henrique said, so, omni-channel is like the stack or the pervasive layer, and conversational commerce is one end goal which is achieved through that. So in that same light, if you ask what is conversational commerce, I'll basically say that it's when you're doing buying and selling, which is the commerce itself, when you're doing buying and selling in a talkative manner or in a bilateral, in a conversational manner. And that's where the word conversational commerce comes in, because what happens here is that if you look at it from a regular brick and mortar store, conversational commerce is happening all the time over there. When you go to a store and you say, hey, do you have the following shoes? Do you have the following mobile phone? Do you have the following fruits and vegetables? That's commerce which is happening out there. And there is a conversation that's happening. As opposed to that, when you look at the likes of, say, an Amazon, or say if you go into a departmental store, or you go into a big retail store like a Walmart, you might just know what all you want to pick up. You go there, you pick up from the racks, you put them in your cart. So it's like you could have a physical shopping cart like a Walmart or a Costco, or you could have a virtual shopping cart like, say, an Amazon or any of the websites. You just check out, and there is really no interaction that's happened out there, right? So that's the other end of a physical or a virtual environment where no conversation is required. But as I was saying, that already conversations are existing in the physical environment. And when today we are being forced to live in a virtual environment, we need to replicate that same model of conversations between the retailer and the end customer in a manner which is as seemingly stitched into the way the physical interaction occurs. That's where conversational commerce comes in, and brands and enterprises are given a segue to get into a conversation with their target end users and be able to conduct commerce with them. That's how I'd say it is.
Thank you, Anurag. Next up, Chrysa. You mentioned you've got an omni-channel solution. Can you just define omni-channel? I know I'm deconstructing this. I started off with Henrique, about the difference between omni-channel and conversational commerce, then asking what conversational commerce is. And let's deconstruct it further. What's omni-channel?
Omnichannel is a strategy where a company, a business can use a variety of channels to reach their customers. Conversational channels are for sure a part of this omnichannel strategy. And actually, if you combine conversational channels with SMS, MMS, email, you have a maximum reach. And omnichannel strategy is essential because the channel preferences of the users are fragmented, despite having, of course, market leaders when it comes to channels. Still, the preferences of the consumers are fragmented, and you do not know where your customers would try to reach you. So, omnichannel means a company having available all the channels that are out there by using just one platform. So that they can combine them and understand which ones work best and what is the combination that works best for them. I can give an example of a mobile operator that is also Upstream's expertise that wants to convert customers from prepaid to postpaid, for example, only by using a digital flow. They can drive traffic with digital channels to their website and then move the discussion to WhatsApp and start a two-way communication with their customers, understand what they need, and this actually creates hot leads for them. Or instead of building a digital flow where the user will need to input data in a lead generation form, a business can add a chatbot on their page with which the user can interact and simulate a physical store experience. So there is multiple examples of combining existing channels and many channels, and at the end of the day, combining channels, testing different channels, understanding which combinations work better for the purpose that you want to achieve. You might want to achieve leads. You might want to run some surveys. You might want to, I don't know, have your customers book appointments. So omnichannel helps you understand the best combination of channels that will, in the end, drive you to the best result.
But the key thing is omnichannel is having them all in one flow, in one seamless conversation. Krešo, just jumping over to you. So there's so many companies around the world. They say we're an omnichannel solutions provider. Omnichannel is plastered absolutely everywhere. But how many are actually omnichannel? How many can deliver omnichannel out there?
Just Infobip, of course.
Oh no!
You asked what? Like,
no, I don't want to turn this into a battle between you all, please.
you threw me the ball on the volley. What should I do? No, I'm joking.
I know. Come on.
I think
play nice.
No, I'm joking. I think all of us here, and I have a point on this. I think all of us here on the call can provide the omnichannel experience.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure we are doing it in an exceptional way. I think the main challenge with the omnichannel is not on the provider side, on the ones who are providing the service, but within the brands, within the companies. So because omnichannel is not only having the channel, having the platform, which they can get from any of us here, but it's more importantly that they have an omnichannel strategy, that they know that each of the departments within a single company talk with the same tone of voice, that they have the same brand, that they have a single sender on WhatsApp or Apple Business Chat or Google Business Messages, that's a company as the client perceives it. Because if I need to communicate with the brand on one WhatsApp channel, with the support, with the other one, with the sales, with the third one, with, I don't know, invoicing department or billing, that's not omnichannel experience. That is multi-channel, that is silos. So I think the main challenge is that, and the main thing that the brands must adopt is that they adopt the omnichannel strategy, define the rules, define as a top company objective, and that they follow it, and then find one of the providers who can help them on that journey.
Okay, thank you. And
so peace, everybody. I'm not
Yeah, no, that's a good answer and very inclusive after that initial start, which horrified me. So it horrified me. Bringing Taha in. Let's get down to nuts and bolts and absolute basics. Taha, what are the benefits of conversational commerce to businesses out there in Africa and indeed around the world of any size? What are the real tangible benefits?
Yeah, I think for any business, I mean, this is not an African thing, it's globally. I think the core idea behind conversational commerce and using chatbots is having a two-way conversation and a rich two-way conversation with the customer, right? All of us tried this before with SMS and doing two-way SMS of some sort, but chatbots and conversational commerce really brings this to another level because it's, rich. There's different media you can share, and people are now used to kind of chatting, you can say, and actually talking to and creating, and now enterprises can create a more conversational tone because now these newer technologies like artificial intelligence, natural language processing, all of it's adding, it's kind of solving small pieces to create a really more engaging and beautiful experience for customers, for them to actually transact at the end of the day, which is the whole idea, right? How do you get them to buy?
Chatbots have become so important, and I'm seeing it not just in selling, but clearly chatbots originally came from the customer service side of things as well. But you mentioned chatbots. No one had until I mentioned it, but you've embedded it in there. So actually, let's go to Henrique now. Taha, open the door on chatbots. How integral and important are chatbots in a good conversational commerce solution?
I believe you cannot have a good conversational commerce without a chatbot, right? I think that's the base of it. And the chatbots, they are evolving in a such way and dramatically fast way over here, and I think around the globe, where now you remember it starts with support, like you said, and basically starts with those FAQs and some small pieces of it, and now it's involving so much with AI, with machine learning, and all of that, that now you can have such real conversations that truly you believe is not a robot, is in the other side. You really believe sometimes you're chatting with a human. And then the chatbot, nowadays, like you said, James, it's not just about selling, right? Even though the selling part, it's amazing. And here the panel, when you see the title of this panel about market, the conversational commerce, it's not just about the market itself, it's about the full package, right? Because you can still market something and the user say, oh, it's amazing, but then when he go to the chatbot to talk with the brand, that does not answer him properly, then he said, okay, I would like to speak with a human agent, and they do not have a tool embedded with the chatbot that cannot have him what he wants. So the total experience for that user is going to be bad, so bad that he does not want to come back. So the chatbot is the center, is the core of it. But when you think about just the chatbot itself, again, you might have the best one, but if at the end you're not solving the user's problem, that is not what he wants. So you need to have all the pieces together. You need to have the marketing side. You need to have the chatbot. You need to have the contact center together, plug that in to help him in the final leg of that conversation. So in the end, the chatbot is the center. We've been approaching that and evolving so much. And again, depending on which channel you are talking about, you can have more or less leverage on what you want to bring that customer closer to you. And the chatbot is the biggest piece on that.
Okay, I think it's amazing to know, actually, chatbots have been around since Alan Turing and Joseph Weizenbaum created them. And the first chatbot was called actually Luisa in 1966. And did you know chatterbots, they weren't called that before. They were actually called verbally enchanted robots, verbots. Anyway, some perhaps useless information from James. I'm full of it. Anyway, let's get to Anurag, because I think you may have something to add on the chatbot side of things.
So actually, you went to the 60s. I didn't want to go that back, but I was watching Young Sheldon, and I'm sure many of you are aware of that awesome web series. And just recently, I was seeing how they were showing in the 80s when he bought a computer for the first time. He was actually, giving in commands, getting responses, and it was a very mechanical thing. So, firstly, yes, at least these experiences or these apps go back at least to the 80s, and you're actually going further back to the 60s. What's very interesting now is, James, that totally exactly what Henrique said about how they are making the chatbots more sophisticated. What's very interesting is that in a lot of places they're adding more emotional intelligence to these chatbots. As Henrique said, that you sometimes don't know whether you're talking to a human being. What's very interesting is now that what really separates a human being from a machine, from a robot, I think it's the entire emotional intelligence aspect of it. And nowadays, it's very heartening to see that developers are creating modules which are actually bringing in that emotional angle into these chatbots, and the communication appears more human-like. Not only that, they're actually bringing in cultural nuances, because different consumers have different interpretations of the same sentence. I, sitting in India, may see something very differently from the same statement which somebody in Brazil reads, or somebody in Africa reads that. So it's very interesting how chatbots are not only becoming more sophisticated in being able to give the right answer, but they are also becoming more sophisticated to give the right answer in the right way that communicates what a user wants to hear in the context of their own biases, in the context of their own understanding of the market. So that's very interesting. That's happening in the field of chatbots nowadays.
Thank you, Anurag. Luisa, let's go to the United States, because you opened the door to the US. What's the chatbot situation there? Because the US has been very, very different in many ways. Traditional call centers, well, they were really, really important. And if some of you have been to the US over the years, you remember pagers? People in the US, even though mobile phones had come out, people held their pagers almost to the dying death. People love their pagers in the US. It's a little bit different, certain things in North America, the USA. What's it like with the chatbot situation and your solutions and everything out there? What are you seeing?
We're seeing growth, definitely, and a sense of personalization and how they're using chatbots to talk directly to consumers and to users and so on. So, of course, we've seen a definite growth. We've seen that, for example, the way they're using chatbots right now, in a sense of how you can talk directly and instantly, talking to new generations that doesn't want to wait for an agent when you call them, or to generate appointments and to make transactions. So this is being highly used by new generations as well. For example, we've seen a growth in multiple industries. Of course, the financial one is one that it's using it each day more. We have the example of Bank of America, for instance, where you have this chatbot right now, Erica, I think it's her name, where she talks directly to you, and you don't even have to talk to a bank representative right now. So she has all the information in your hand, and it's instant. You don't have to wait. So each day, more and more institutions are adopting this kind of solution, and users are really willing to use them. I think that that's the main point here. We've seen that it's nice to have this sort of conversations. As Anurag said, they're now more emotional, so they talk directly to you. They tell your name. They know what you're looking for. So it just all the information that you have in social media, in the bank, in the digital space, they've been able to create some chatbots that are like humans, and people want to talk to them.
And I forgot the name of the movie, but I think there's a movie with Joaquin Phoenix where he was talking to his phone, the operating system on his phone, basically, and he had a relationship with his phone. I think it is. That was several years ago, but I think now, I've noticed personally in the past couple of years, things have got so much better in terms of the quality of experience. But Chrysa, not everyone wants that. You're going to still have people who possibly of an older generation who don't want that chat experience, and actually when they're interfacing with a machine want to know it's a machine and not to have that human feel. What are you seeing out there in terms of that? Are you seeing this divide being created or not really?
No, I agree with what you're saying, James. So basically, that's what I meant before when I said that the channel preferences are fragmented, and that is why you need to have a variety of channels to ask your users, your consumers to choose from. I can see people, older people like my mother, not being able to like use a chatbot, and having to make a phone call, for example, to ask for a product or to ask for a post-sales service. However, this is changing, and with chatbots and chat applications, you at least have the opportunity to address, I think now more than 50% of the customers. I was reading some reviews saying that actually during the pandemic, 2 out of 3 consumers have contacted a business through a chat app or a chatbot. So I understand that you need to have more traditional channels in place because you need to attend to the needs of all your customers. However, the conversational channels have become a necessity. So it's the combination and the omni-channel approach that matters.
Thank you. Thanks, Chrysa. Taha, back to you in Tanzania. Conversational, we're talking about chatbots. We're talking about things which rely on the internet, which rely on a smartphone, perhaps, or access to a laptop, etc., etc. Can you carry out conversational commerce successfully with a feature phone?
It's possible. It's a limited medium, let's say on traditional SMS. You could say to USSD, people are used to USSD across Africa.
That's what I was driving at, because that's
a very interactive session.
Yeah.
There's no emotional intelligence there or anything like that. It's a plain menu, and you kind of have to go through one at a time, one step at a time. So people are used to that, and I think what the chatbots and the conversational commerce kind of what it does is now brings another level to that similar kind of model of USSD, but now adds the intelligence, the conversation part of it, being able to talk back and forth, it being able to tell that you're stuck or the bot is not understanding you. All of those things were not possible perhaps on USSD or traditional SMS, and so now they are possible. But yes, there are still a lot of use cases where you can do chat or chatbot-like applications on SMS, and that's still very prevalent, especially when you're talking to audiences that are, traditionally off-grid, you could say, or don't have active internet connections, like farmers, or you have citizens in low-income or rural areas that you need to access, particularly for NGOs, etc. So there's different kinds of enterprise customers that have those kinds of requirements as well. And so basic chatbots are still relevant in those use cases.
Okay, thank you very much. Krešo, over to you and Infobip. Out there, you've got many thousands of enterprise customers as your clients. You've got various channels out there. You've got SMS, push messaging, RCS. We've got your Nina on very, very soon with a session focusing on RCS within Europe, looking at that. How big a deal are chatbots becoming in your enterprise communication stack?
So they are becoming, but not of the channels that you mentioned, mostly on the new OTT channels. So as the colleagues already here mentioned it, so on WhatsApp, Viber, Line, Kakao, Apple Business Chat, Google Business Messages. So those are the main two-way channels, and the chatbots are becoming more and more important. Again, it comes to the strategy of the company. So the chatbots are not, or the engines are not cognitive enough yet, so you can fully automatize the communication. And people are very reluctant to use the chatbots and are trying to trick them. So a good tactic and what we are trying to help our client is to build like a triage bot, which will handle part of the communication, which will guide you to the proper agent, which will collect the data, which will then guide you to the agent, which can have all the data served by the chatbot. So I think at the moment with the let's say the quality and the readiness of the AI engines, that is the best way the companies should approach when introducing the chatbots. Replacing the agent is not going to happen, and you're going to destroy the image of the brand if you try to replace humans with the chatbots.
Okay, that's clear. Thank you very much, Krešo. Back to Henrique in Brazil. So, chatbots for you, from what you're seeing, let's take Brazil, your home market. Are they used a lot? Do people like them? Do people have empathy with them, or not so?
I believe they do. But again, I think it was part of the process itself, and because of this horrible times that we are living right now, because of the pandemic, something that helped people to understand bots and how to approach it was because of the pandemic, right? Because people still needed to buy something, to get in touch with a store, with a grocery, with a medical lab, and people were afraid of going there physically, and they even couldn't go. So they start to receive a message and to get in contact through the chatbot, and I think people, it's more aware of it. I think it's still like in baby steps, so you still have a lot of chatbots that goes from basic, which is the FAQ, a single menu that will direction him to some other part of the bot. And like Krešo said, and I agree, at least now and for the foreseen future, you cannot just take it out, the live human agent, right? Because it's so much important, because people in some bots, they are completing 70, 75, 80% of their requests and doubts, they are being handled by the bots. But you know, when you have something so particular and difficult, you need to have a live agent human that you can talk with and get that info to you. But what is most important over here, in quoting something that Chrysa said, is the channels are so fragmented here in Brazil, right? You have a huge population, the smartphone penetration, it's amazing, but you have sometimes that mid-tier smartphone. So people here, they know SMS from since day one. WhatsApp, I believe Brazil is the second biggest country in WhatsApp usage in the world after India. So people is more aware of how to use those two channels. But then you have nowadays, for example, Instagram, that is another such powerful channel here. And you were saying, James, in the beginning, when you go to a small and medium business, those companies, it's like, you know, my wife and I have in a grocery store here in the neighborhood. We do not have technical people to work that out. So I need someone, and I do not want to do manually all the requests on my Instagram, for example. How can I plug in a chatbot? How can I plug in a easy API at least to facilitate and to start to reply quickly my customers? And that starts to happen a lot. And people, they are seeing track on that in both ways. They are selling more, they are growing in terms of revenue, and they are reducing costs. So there are several examples here from big enterprises and to small where people are reducing cost, and not the proper cost. It's also the timing spent from the user over there, where he would take several minutes or hours to do something, and now in just a few minutes with a bot in that specific channel, he can do his grocery and that's it. So all of that here in Brazil, when I'm saying Brazil, you can pick some other big countries in Latin America. Mexico, right, is almost in the same path of Brazil, and others such as Colombia, Argentina, they are going into the same way. People, they're getting on track with that, and hopefully that will stay for real for a long time. It's not just going to be because of the pandemic. The pandemic is just the trick, the first part of it.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much. So yeah, we've been talking about digital transformation on our event this week, but it's really a digital ongoing evolution and not really a one-off transformation. Now, we're coming up to the close of this panel in about 8 minutes time. So I need to start wrapping things up gradually and slowly. So let's start off with Chrysa. Chrysa, what do you think we collectively as an industry need to do to make conversational commerce become a reality a little bit more for organizations of all sizes? What do you think we're not doing right at helping smaller businesses see the benefits of this? What could we do?
I think we are already on a good path, even for smaller businesses. For sure, there is a lot of things we can do in terms of platforms and solutions, like make available our solutions with better pricing to even smaller enterprises, or have a self-served platforms that the small companies can use much easier. So I think we are on a good path, and it's a two-way thing. So we can do things as an industry, but then at the same time, smaller businesses need to also understand that there is tools out there. At first, it must be hard, and they do. The bigger companies do have a competitive advantage over them because they have more resources, more budget. However, since they are competing, the big companies, and I'm saying this, that it is a two-way thing, they should get on board. Digital marketeers know that they have the tools in their hands, even the ones that work for small businesses and companies. So on one hand, we are going to be improving our features, our UIs, our pricing, our business models, so that they can get access. And on the other hand, they should also be more educated about the conversational marketing.
Chrysa, thank you very much. So to Anurag, so I'm a business, doesn't matter, small, medium, large. How do I go about choosing the right conversational commerce provider? What do I need to look for?
I guess what you actually first need to look for is a better understanding of your end customer base, and understanding that whatever segments that you're operating in, whoever are your target customers, what sort of channels are they most comfortable with? Like somebody was mentioning about their mother not being comfortable with the chatbot or something like that. So you need to figure out firstly that whichever business you're in, whichever industry you're in, who are your target segments, what are the key characteristics and digital adoption and comfort with the upcoming digital trends. What is their level of maturity on these various channels? Based on that, I believe that's the first measure to be able to figure out that you need an omni-channel or a conversational commerce provider who's able to access these channels. That's the first point. And then I think what's important is that, and I'm stealing a page from what you yourself say, James, that a lot of so-called omni-channel providers are actually multi-channel providers, and there is really no intelligence between what they're offering. I mean, it's basically like 4 different pipes. One is like, say, a WhatsApp pipe, one is a Facebook pipe, one is a Viber pipe, and one is an SMS pipe, and they are not really talking to each other. I think what's very important is that one needs to pick up a service provider who's intelligently segmenting the customers that they're reaching out to and capturing the channel of preference, and being able to optimally ensure that your communication is reaching that channel via is reaching that consumer via their channel of preference. So I guess as long as you're able to identify the channels which your end consumers want, and if you're able to pick up a provider who's able to intelligently manage those channels, I think you'd be in the right place. I think lastly, it comes to, of course, the commercial aspect of it. And, a lot of innovative models are coming about. RCS, for example, still they're figuring out what's the right commercial model. So I think the last step would be having a fairly comfortable commercial model that can help the enterprise actually adopt this. And
I'm sure that's going to be mentioned in the next session, Anurag, a lot with the RCS session. So thank you very much.
Right.
Luisa, closing remarks, because it's coming to that time. I know time flies, nearly an hour together. But Luisa, closing remarks about conversational commerce. Anything you feel needs to be added to what Anurag said about how any company out there can go about choosing the right partner?
Yeah, I think that the first, like Anurag said, the first thing is to understand what your customer needs and how they want to talk with your brand digitally. Make it simple. Sometimes we think about conversational e-commerce and chatbots and so on, and we believe this is such a huge thing. So understand that you can make it simple, and you as a company and as a provider make it simple for your customers to be able to jump into this. So I think that's the main point. Once you jump into it, it's gonna be easier to add on and make a whole strategy. But yeah, first, understand your customers. Second, know which are the right channels to that they want to interact with, and definitely make it simple.
Yeah, ask your customers. Don't be scared to ask your customer. No problem
That's
at all.
correct.
And Taha, closing remarks from your side. Anything you think that none of us here have mentioned that we should have mentioned during this session?
I think most of it's mentioned. The low-hanging fruit, I think, is the place to start. You know, the simplest use case for someone to be able to test it and kind of get that wow factor, and then say, oh, okay, now I can apply it here and here and here and here and here. But more structurally, I think smartphone penetration needs to increase in, let's say, in our markets for real adoption to be for there to be real adoption across the board. As more people are on WhatsApp, and I think last thing is probably picking one channel. So let's say if WhatsApp is the channel of choice, then stick to that as your test channel first, and then kind of expand the realm of what you do and the use cases that you address.
Okay, so take it easy, baby steps. And I think, like with digital transformation, people think digital transformation has to be something fast, mega millions, takes months, involves hundreds of people. It doesn't. Small things. That's what digital transformation is. Accumulation of small things. Krešo, your closing remarks for this session, sir, please.
But I think the colleagues said everything. I really don't. I can repeat what I said. So the conversational commerce is just starting within the business messaging. So there is a huge opportunity for everybody, for the brands first of all, for the end users and it's being fueled by COVID a lot. So there are huge opportunities coming are in front of all of us, and we are looking forward to start delivering solutions in this space. And it's really exciting.
No, it is. It really is. And just to finish off with another little stat, I have it written down here because I can't remember all these things all the time, but I'm getting older. But chatbots apparently will be processing $145 billion of spend come 2025. And 90% of all the investment in chatbots is actually across the whole world is in 3 countries, China, Japan, and South Korea. So in many ways, like we learned yesterday on the payments day with regards to mobile payments, it's really the adoption in China leading the way. So that from over there will be coming more our way in the very, very near future. So speakers, thank you so much for joining me. Chrysa from Upstream, pleasure seeing you, pleasure joining me. Henrique, thank you very much from Brazil with Sinch. Anurag, Tata Communications over in India. Luisa from Identidad over in America. Krešo in Croatia from Infobip. And Taha in Tanzania with Beem, a truly international panel. Thank you so much and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.